wrong. But I'm Emily, and I'm the office coordinator here at Turning Point. And I want to welcome you guys all to join us today for the Try Something New in 2022 with Lisa. So I can go ahead and pass it over to her, and feel free to ask questions in the chat box and send anything our way, and I'll make sure that Lisa gets those answered if you guys have any questions during the presentation. So take it away.
Okay, well, we will go ahead and get started. We have 3 of you so far, so it's kind of like a little private session, but I just want to preface, I'm not feeling the best today. So if I start sweating or acting a little bit weird, I apologize. But so, you know, we're going to just talk about doing something new in 2022. So let's see. Okay, so I don't know, like, we'll go with this. We're gonna like make something that's old new again. All right. I thought about, you know, like what kind of new things are out there, and what kind of things that we can try, and how we can incorporate new fun things. And I thought to myself, because I talk to our patients all the time, and I'm like, you know, how about this? And they're like, oh my gosh, well, I totally forgot about this, or I totally forgot about that. So there's a couple things that I like to bring up. First off is something that's old, that's been around and bring it back. Okay, so the first thing is, you know, our infused water. You know, we talk about hydrating all the time, and how important it is to hydrate. And you know, I do have a lot of patients, a lot of people that tell me that they don't like water. They just don't like plain water. So we go ahead and we're like, you know, we can do the infused water, and plain and simple. But you know, with this, I generally encourage people to try just different things. You know, you can do any kind of fruit that's out there. And these are little mason jars, and you can actually do these like the night before. I like to do like a lot of prep prior to the next day, or actually like maybe even on Sunday. But I will tell you, with the fruit, with water, we don't do like days in advance. We do it the night before or that morning. But so this is a way to get dehydration in. Okay. How much our fluid needs, you know, generally we calculate, we can do this great calculation of you take your body weight and you divide it by 2.2, and then you multiply it by 30. But in the long run, what basically we do is we take what our current weight is and we divide it by 2. And that's about how many ounces of water or hydration that we need in a day. Okay. So this idea, like with adding the infused water, is perfect and fine. Sometimes people just they like want a fizzy, and that's okay. And, you know, just taking like sparkling mineral water and doing the same thing. You can put the fruit at the bottom. Sometimes if you take a mortar and pestle and you crush that, you kind of macerate that fruit, that will bring out some more of the flavor. You'll have it won't be clear water. It'll be obviously foggy chunks, but that's okay. Because those kind of things you can actually, instead of just using the infused flavor from that fruit, you can actually eat the fruit as well. So kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because we tell you all the time is that we need more fruit and more vegetables in our diet. This, we can just be fruit, because fruit tends to be the go-to because it's a sweeter. But we can do things like cucumber, and we can do herbs in there. We can do a cucumber. Basil is a good one, and that's more of a robust type of flavor, just to get that sweetness gone. Wait, hold on 1 second. So that's one thing that I like, that's old, that I want to bring up and bring new again. They've got a million different varieties of jars and infusers out there. You can go to Marshall's or TJ Maxx, and they have them that have actually a tube in the middle. You stuff your fruit down in there, put it in a gallon of water, and then use it throughout the day. Okay, so hydration this is something that's old and brought back. Another old one is, let me see. Okay, infused oils. This is one that I like to have on hand, and this is a really clever way to do it. Like how they have these little bottles, and you can buy these things on Amazon. But getting the different infused, you can do the rosemary, but the different oils will give your food a different flavor. So that right there with can be adding something new. That is our old but new. And generally, when you do this, I don't know if any of you 3 have ever infused oil before, but what you do is you need to have a clean container, obviously, and then we wash the fruit, we wash the fruit, the lemon, or we wash the herb, stuff it down inside, and then we can put the oil of choice. Generally olive oil is a good one, just because that one is kind of, that oil itself is really, if it's a lighter olive oil, it doesn't have a lot of a pungent flavor. The canola oil is fine. You can do a safflower oil. You can even do a peanut oil, but the best is really like in the olive oil variety. So we can take that, you put it in, and then you put the oil in, and basically you cap it, and you can let it sit there. You can use it that way if you have a small jars. I generally don't like to leave the herbs in there for the duration of how I'm using that oil. So I will sometimes just pull that rosemary out and just after a couple of days and let that oil be there for infusion. So these are good ways to add flavor, like, eggs in the morning. I usually will take a little bit of olive oil on a nonstick pan and just swirl it around. And this will give you the eggs just a different flavor. Or even if you're doing something as simple as if you do like toast or anything, you can take some of that garlic oil and just like a little brush it on lightly. And that gives it that garlic flavor. You can put a slice of, a real thin slice of a lower fat, reduced fat cheese and put that on top of there and just give that a different kind of sense for the breakfast. You can put that oil on the toast again, and then you can put avocados on it. You can drizzle that oil on that. So this is something that's been around for a very long time, but I think that people, they don't really remember, don't utilize it as often as we could or we should. With this, on a side note, for my patients that have IBS out there, the garlic and onion are something that we need to avoid with IBS. And so this garlic infused oil and the onion infused oil are perfect if we want to get those flavors in for those that cannot eat it, or for those that have, real bad reflux. Olive and garlic tend to be the offenders. And so what we do with that is we make these oils, and the oil from the infusion are not as offensive with the GI problems or with the reflux. Okay, so those are the old things. I picked up like 3 things that I thought there's a million products out there, and if you guys have favorite ones, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. But it's really, there's kind of 4 different things, but 3 things that I thought could be fun. Just trying something new maybe, or looking at it at a different light. And this first one, I discovered these this past year. Actually, my fiance discovered them because he was just wanting to lose weight and didn't want to, wanted a tortilla basically, but didn't want all the calories in it. Okay, so these things they're called Egg Life, and they are egg whites basically. And if you look on there, there's 25 calories. There's actually 5 grams of protein in each of these, which has about 75 less calories than a regular tortilla and 5 grams extra protein. So it's a really good substitution if we're wanting something and more on the tortilla end. The only downside is tortillas have a little bit of fiber. Tortillas, like corn tortillas, are considered whole grain. So that's how we would get whole grains in. When I tell people, why don't we add a corn tortilla? In the morning we can do a corn tortilla wrap. So I mean, that still holds true. But if you're really wanting to try something different or watch the calorie level, these egg life are pretty cool. There's just like about 6 of them in a pack, and you microwave them for a second to get the chill off, but they are a great substitute. So you can do your savory, on the bottom, you can do one that's more sweet, more like crepe basically, and fill that up with a low fat ricotta cheese that has some cinnamon, a little bit of sweetener, or sugar or maple syrup, cut strawberries, and then drizzle a little bit of the dark chocolate on. And that's basically kind of what that is there. So these can also be, I've used them in the place of putting a couple flat and making a quasi snack pizza out of it as well. A little bit of sauce I put on there, and then just some cheese, and then I put that in the oven, and it will take that craving away. It's a really low calorie really kind of good, gives you some protein, and that's always important. And it's pretty simple. And these, you can actually order these from Amazon. They are at Whole Foods, I believe. I think that I have found them also at Kroger. I'm not sure about Publix, because I'm actually filming from Texas, so that's where I'm doing all my shopping here. So I just order them, a big bunch of them, and keep them in the refrigerator. They have a good shelf life, and then keep them and use them in ad lib. So that's one new thing. Another thing, and this isn't an old thing. It's relatively kind of new, but not really. Okay, bone broth is one that I don't know if you guys have heard or know, but bone broth is one that we take the bones and we put them in a pot with a bunch of other good things, and we simmer them down. And those bones, the broth, the collagen, they have collagen, they have minerals, they have a bunch of great good for you things. And we let that simmer for a long time. And then this broth, this bone broth, is used. I tell people to use it in the place of, like, when a recipe calls for chicken broth or beef broth, or and the difference between those two, like a bone broth is one that is simmered longer. It can be simmered up for, in a crock pot up to 24 hours. But this one really simmers down and really kind of pulls everything out of those bones. Whereas like a chicken broth is just like the whole chicken, and you kind of just simmer that down. So this is going to be a bit more nutrient dense than just a chicken broth or a beef broth. Okay. The bone broth, there's some research and what they're looking at it, and bone broth does improve your gut health. It has collagen in it, and it has some oh my gosh, I just drew a blank, but it can speed the healing of that gut lining. All right. And a lot of the times when we have going through any type of treatment, cancer treatment, especially with the chemotherapies, the gut gets affected a lot. And so the lining of that gut takes a hit along with the treatment. And so with this, I always tell people, like, to sip on the bone broth, throughout, like, especially if we're not feeling well, we can add to the bone broth, you can add a little bit of salt to make it saltier, because salty things tend to help with the nausea. But so we do a bone broth, and that can speed up that healing of the gut. It can keep it healthy. The thing that is really great with it is that bone broth will have a little bit of protein. It can have up to 9 grams of protein in a cup, which is phenomenal for just a broth. So that is important, like getting that in. Your protein needs met, especially if we're undergoing treatment, chemo, radiation, or the combination of both, or even post-surgery is another great thing, because the gut gets affected by the anesthesia, by everything else as well. So that's the key thing. And you can sip on this, at lunchtime, at nighttime when it's hot, cold outside, it's really nice and warming. So it does reduce inflammation in our joints, the bones, in our gut. So it is a good anti-inflammatory. And this is one of those that are, like, I have my anti-inflammatory list, and I probably need to put bone broth on here because it is an anti-inflammatory. It can boost immunity, and how it does that, it doesn't necessarily do it per se by itself, but it's keeping the gut healthy, the lining healthy, so the lining can work and absorb all that it needs to absorb. Okay, so that's an added benefit. So with all of this, like all the sicknesses, like COVID and just stomach viruses or whatever it is that I have, keeping that gut healthy, boosting this immunity. This should have been something that I could have been sipping on. Maybe I wouldn't feel the way I do. But the other thing it does protect your joint and your bones. It's a very mineral dense, and when you simmer it down for a very long time, you'll see I have a recipe, but we add some things to it that it really pulls out those minerals. Okay, and the minerals are things that work on our bones. We have calcium, magnesium, those types of things that are pulled out, and it maintains that gut. The joints, the integrity of those joints. There's glucosamine, chondroitin, and there's collagen in that. And so it's very beneficial for our joints. You know, a lot of times people that are, you know, with arthritic or have any type of inflammation with the joints, that this tends to help calm it down. And that's what we want to do with anti-inflammatory, is calm things down. The nutrients, you know, helps with our body. Again, this is like the same thing. It helps like boost immunity, but it helps nutrient absorption. And how that does that is by the healthy gut lining. Okay, so that's our microbiome. Like our gut is the gateway to health. If you see all these things that we keep mentioning, so it's a very important. It also has been known, since it has that collagen and it has a very great thing. It is good for the skin, your hair, and your nails, and you can notice a noticeable difference when you start consuming this on a regular basis. Okay, so bone broth. I don't want to say it's old, it's kind of new, but if you haven't tried it, you can buy it already pre-made out there. But what I like to tend to do is, you know, if we have a chicken, or you can make a turkey bone broth, or, you know, if people have steak or a roast or something and there's a bone, we just make a broth. Okay, and this is a quick little recipe for this. You know, it's just like making a stock, but you put your chicken, your beef. The one thing with the beef, they do recommend that you kind of roast those bones before you boil them. Okay, so roast them in the oven. I think it's 325 or 350 for about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, and before we start soaking them. But the chicken and the turkey, you know, I did this with my Thanksgiving, the carcass from the turkey, I put in a big pot. And these aren't exact measures. So I usually put bay leaves in there, I put peppercorns in there, I put some onion, I put carrot, garlic, celery. These are the kind of like that trinity. Well, it's more than a trinity, but those are the things that kind of give it the flavor. We put that in there, and it's the important thing that you remember when you're doing this is that you add a splash, or about depending on how much you're making, about 1 to 2 tablespoons of like a vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is one that I use. And that vinegar works to pull all the minerals, pull most of the minerals out of that bone. Okay, so make sure you don't forget that step. Not that it's going to be bad otherwise, but this is just going to give you the full benefit of that, of the bone broth. Okay, and then we put a little bit of oil in there just because that helps with the cohesiveness of because once you boil it and then you strain it, that's what you're going to do. And then we're going to strain it, get everything out of it, and then you can put it back on the stove and you can simmer it a little bit, or you can save it as is. I take the bone broth and I will put it in a large container if I'm going to use it, because I'll make out of this, I will take and I'll make a kale soup out of it. Or I will take it, and you can do a couple different things. In like 1 cup servings, you can do the freezer that way. I have frozen it before in like little ice cube trays, just so that you can kind of do it ad lib. Like if you're making something, like if you're making a mashed potato and you need some chicken broth, a little bit of splash of chicken broth, or, you know, I had a recipe the other day and it called for like 1/3 of a cup of beef broth, you know, and like that's just a tiny little bitty bit. So I keep that. You can keep that in the freezer and then pull it out as you need it. And also you can do it in a big stock bag, and that's fine. Like if you know, like that's what, like I said, I use this for a soup that I like to make in the winter, is a kale soup, and it's quick and easy. And the great thing with this is there's no additives, there's no preservatives. You have control of everything that goes into it. So that's one thing that we can do, and we can incorporate that in everything. I use bone broth in every recipe that does call for chicken broth. Like, you know, I had a lentil soup recipe and it called for chicken broth or vegetable broth, and I actually used some of the bone broth just to give me those extra, just so that little bit of extra. Okay, so that's one way we can do that. This is something that you can just make a vegetable soup out of and have it at lunchtime in addition to what you're already having. Also with this, I will, like if my patients are, you know, post chemo, and if they're not feeling 100%, I'll tell them to do bone broth. I'll put, like, you add the carrots back in it, the celery, do all that back in it, and let that I usually have them blend it all back up at that point, and so it's kind of brothy, but it's still giving you, carbohydrates. You're giving you some other nutrients from the vegetables, so we're not, completely null and void of nutrients when we're not feeling the best. A great thing to put in here, and you can do like little white potatoes with that. That would be a good carbohydrate. You can put, quinoa. That's another thing that we can talk about. That's another old but new. And so those are all just different things you can do it. There's a million different varieties with it. I've made, gravy out of it. I mean, I've done everything. So if you haven't done it or used it, I recommend just trying. The next thing is I really like, wait, give me one second. I really love hemp seeds. Excuse me. If you haven't tried them, I would recommend, they're flavorless. Okay. So you can add them to absolutely anything and everything. I will sprinkle them on a salad. I will sprinkle them on in my kale soup. I'll sprinkle them on my chili. And the reason, they have really healthy fats in them. They have the essential omega-3 fatty acids. Okay. So they're really good. They just add a little bit of a crunch. To me, I tell people that they kind of remind me of like if you had cashews and you had the crumbs at the bottom of the bag. Kind of like that. Like those crumbs are there. It's like a soft kind of a nut. It's not a lot of texture. And like I said, it doesn't have any flavor. So, and then it adds it adds color, adds another dimension. So steamed cauliflower, which is just white, you sprinkle that on, though it's white, it has some green flecks in it. It makes it look a little bit more appealing. And then plus you're getting all those nutrients from it. So you're getting some of those essential fatty acids. And remember, essential mean that our body does not produce them. So we need to get them via our food. So we have, and they have omega-3 fatty acids. And so their fatty acid ratio is actually a little bit higher than that we find in chia seeds and flaxseed. So this is a good way that we can add some more of those essentials. Okay. Our population gets enough of the omega-6s. We do not get enough of the omega-3s. So if we're not big on eating the fatty fish, or if we're not big on eating walnuts and those types of things, this is a really cool, easy way to add it in. Also, it's real high in vitamin E. You can see there phosphorus, potassium, has a little bit of sodium, nothing like over the chart. Magnesium, the sulfur, calcium, iron, and zinc. So super duper pack full of nutrients. And then about 25% of the calories are from protein, come from that protein. So it's it's all encompassing. A serving has about 10 grams of protein, and the serving is about 2 to 3 tablespoons, which is very easy to do, especially if you're sprinkling it on things all day long. Okay. I have put it in, I have a jar that is from like at the from Parmesan cheese at the pizza place that have the bigger holes in it. And so I will just shake it on things. And then in the beginning of the week before work, I have little bitty containers that are about 2 tablespoons, and I'll fill each of those containers up and keep them in the refrigerator. So as I'm going out the door, I'll go ahead and throw that into my lunch as well. And like if I'm going to have a salad, even if it's a prepackaged salad, I will take those and I'll add it to it. So real quick, real easy, nutrient dense. Okay. So with that being said, one of the things that I encourage people to do, and not a lot of people do it, is to have an indoor kind of herb garden. And this is like a cute little idea, like you can put them in the little mason jars and keep them on your windowsill, or keep them on the counter with some sunlight. This is cute, they labeled them, but you can do basil this way, you can do rosemary, you can do thyme, oregano, mint, you can do parsley, you can do chives. It's a little harder, but I love cilantro, but not a lot of people do. That one tends to be a little bit more finicky. But when you have them fresh and you're preparing, a meal, and it calls for, time, it's obvious that we know the freshness of a fresh herb. I mean, it's just irreplaceable. So if something calls for, let's say it calls for a tablespoon of oregano, a dried oregano, then you would use third of that, a half of that, I apologize, a half. So you would use, that half of a tablespoon of fresh in place of that whole. Yeah. Is that the right way? Did I say it the wrong way? Yes, I did. So if it's a tablespoon, then you would use 2 tablespoons of fresh. I said it backwards. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 fresh to 1 to 1. So if the recipe does call for, say it's a teaspoon of dried oregano, then you would use 2 teaspoons of fresh, and vice versa. But when they're on they're especially, like, you can have an herb garden outside, and a lot of people do that. But a lot of people are like, I'm not going to go out there and get it, or hey, can you go get them? But if it's right there, right on hand, you can clip it and go. The chives are something that's fantastic to grow, and they look really cute, but those are good. Those can be put on eggs, and we know they go on potatoes, but those can be chopped up real easily on absolutely anything. And any of these herbs can go sprinkled on, put on your a salad, or it can be, you chop up all of them together and then put in a little bit of olive oil and have that as a marinade for steaks or for your chicken, even fish. Okay, so plan an indoor herb garden. It's kind of a fun thing to do, but it's pretty good to have that right there on hand, within arm's reach. So with those being said, so say like you're chopping, and I always tend to like chop too much, and then I have this leftover. So what do we do instead of throwing that out? We freeze them. And I don't know if anybody has ever done this or tried this in the past, but another is ice cube trays. The best ones that work the best are the silicone ones, because they're easy to like pop those things out. And these are like little square silicone that was on. So try that. So we take our herb, we chop it up. Like I said, if I had leftover herbs from, recipe I was making, I put them in you put them in an ice cube tray, or just the one. And then you fill them up. You fill the water with water completely up. And then make sure that you push the herbs down, because they tend to kind of want to float up. So push them down in that ice cube tray. And then you take that tray, put it in the freezer. And it freezes about, it says on here, 3 to 4 hours. And then you take them out, and then you pop all of them out, and then you put them in little freezer bags. And then you have them. They're there, they're ready, accessible, and they're ready, good to go. All right. And when you use them, depending on what you use them in, I've taken them in just like, like I like to, I like when I make chicken noodle soup at the end, I like to put oregano in it. And so I could just take one of these cubes, I put the whole cube in there, because, I think that the water has maybe a little bit of flavor in it. But you can throw that in the whole. If you're making, like the stalks, like I said, or if it's calling for anything, you can throw the whole thing in there. But if you need like these fresh herbs, and so you just melt it. You just melt it over like a little strainer. I have like a small little bitty one, put it on there, let it completely melt. You can even run some water over it gently, not hot water, just like a cool water, melt that quickly if you need it in a pinch, and then just throw that in. And the ratio to this one is same. So these are fresh, remember they're fresh, but you would use the same quantity. So if it calls for a tablespoon of fresh oregano, you would use a tablespoon of those. Other things that you can do if you don't want to do ice cubes, you can, the hardy things like, like your thyme and your rosemary, those can, if you have a cookie sheet, you put that flat on a cookie sheet and put that in the freezer, and then they freeze on the stick, and that's perfect and fine to do that. And then you take them once they're frozen, you put them again in the bags. And sometimes when you make like a roast or anything, they call for the whole sprig, and you can just take that out and use it. Another way that you can protect or save these is if you take a plastic bag and you take a tablespoon of oil. It could be, I would probably say like again, a really light olive oil or canola oil. Put it in a little baggie. Chop up these herbs, put it in there, and kind of like rub them flat. Have it flat, like it's completely flat. Put it on a cookie sheet and freeze it that way. And that preserves them. They don't get as brown, oxidized from doing it that way. So 3 ways to save them, because I hate to throw things away. So like if you have, if you go to the store and you have an extra bundle of cilantro before it goes bad, I just tend to do this, because these when they're frozen state, they'll last for 3 months in the freezer. So So that's something that that we can try. That's something kind of old but new again. Oh, all right. I didn't realize that was the last slide. So we'll go back here. And we will start with some questions. I didn't realize that was the last one.
I thought that was great. That was a plethora of information. I learned a lot.
Yeah,
if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the question box.
Or if anybody has their favorite, if they have a favorite secret new food or thing that they like to use, like those egg wraps or something different that you can use.
I know for a while, me and Aurelis were bringing for breakfast to the office little egg muffin tins.
Yeah.
And we would we'd put all the vegetables in there and then crack or whip up eggs and put them into each little thing and make little mini muffin trays of little egg bites, kind of like the Starbucks egg bite things.
Yeah. See, that's another thing that like that's not a slide I put on here, but that was in my thoughts, is like repurposing food, leftovers. A lot of people don't like leftovers per se. So like taking, like, say tonight you had, say you had chicken and, you're like, I don't want to eat chicken tomorrow. So generally it's like, you can do, obviously you can do like a chicken salad, or you can slice that chicken and make fajitas out of it, or you can slice that chicken and put it on pizza, or you can slice that chicken. So it's just like giving it a completely different purpose. I've done like with beef or anything, that occasion that we have it, if there's a big roast and it's left over, I will you pan sear it and you can have, like a type of like street tacos, and with that, can have your fresh herbs from your little herb garden, your cilantro, and put that on. But, you can do stuff like that. But all the leftover like vegetables that I have, like if I have vegetables that are left over from dinner, say I steam broccoli or I steam, like spinach or whatever it is, I will if I have them, I don't like to have recooked vegetables.
Right.
Like I don't like leftover vegetables per se, like recooked. So the idea is I will take them and I'll put them in the soup. I will put them like what you did with those egg cups. That's a fantastic way to get rid of those leftovers that you
extra veggies.
Yeah. So good idea. Good.
Lots of fun. I agree with Michelle just made a comment that she likes the idea of the hemp seeds, and I do too, because I've used flaxseed and I didn't really like it. I kind of thought it was different and I kind of lost the point of it, but it's really cool that the hemp seeds you could just put in anything and it's has a lot more benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah. They don't add flavor. So but it's just such a good way to add things, like we all know, I mean, we've heard of like the chia seeds, and, I like the chia seeds, and I think I've given this recipe a million times before, but like, how I incorporate those in are like a fruit and yogurt parfait, like, in the mornings, and I make them all on Sunday night. I told everyone I make them on Sunday night and take my jars and put my little fruit in there and then put my yogurt, and then I put a whole bunch of chia seeds on there, and then you put it in the refrigerator. And then in the morning you grab it, put some walnuts or nuts, and there you go. So that's another way. And those are things that we can get more of those essential fatty acids in, and that's the important way. People think they just have to eat salmon, but there's other ideas out there.
Right. Susan said she actually tried this. Is interesting because I know you mentioned adding water to your herbs, but she poured olive oil into them and froze them.
Oh, do they freeze that? Oh, that's a very clever idea.
I bet that's so good in like an Italian dish with
the
olive oil already in it, but that's so good. With fresh basil. She said she did it with basil.
That sounds excellent. Or making like a salad dressing out of that, since it's the olive oil would be perfect.
Sounds so good.
That would be
real
good.
Quick, where can you buy hemp seeds?
You can get them anywhere. I'll buy enormous bag from Costco. They have this huge enormous bag. But when you look for them, like every grocery store is different. So they'll be by like the chia seeds or the
is that like the nut section?
And some people have it in the nut section. In some places I've found it over in like a specialty. All that stuff. Some like at Kroger, they do have like that little specialty area that you. But then I like to dig like in the baking aisle and stuff. Like I'll buy all the nuts and everything. They can be there. Yeah. But truthfully, I get that enormous bag because they can be, and what I tell people is like, if you go like Whole Foods or they all have them, but if they have them that you can try, like, I know that like at Walmart, for instance, they used to, in their spice aisle, they had, it was just like by the Hispanic seasonings.
Yes.
That the Badia, I think I probably pronounced it wrong, but they would have little bags like this big, and they're like 97 cents, and you can just like grab and try.
And
So I
little
have a little, yeah, I have that, yeah, a little bag like that, and like they have that, they have hemp, well, they have hemp, they have chia seed, they have just different things, so you don't have to spend like $10 and not like it, but I promise you, like they don't taste. But the funny thing with it is that when I went to Costco the one time, and there was a lady at the, it's like a sample day, and she was giving out samples of hemp seeds, just like plain. And people are like, what do you do with these? And I mean, I took them, I ate them, but it's just like, don't do it that way. Like
nothing to it.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing to them. There's nothing to them at all.
Interesting. Good though. Good nutrients and no taste, because it doesn't taste bad. Yeah. You're not adding something
like that stuff we have to like hold our nose and that, but it's also, it's the protein in it, it has all the essential amino acids, so it's basically a complete protein. Hence, just like like we say in soy is a complete protein, and quinoa is a complete protein, so it has all these amino acids, so that 10 grams is complete. So we were talking about that because they all kind of are building blocks, they all kind of fit together. So there are some things that don't have all of the, like vegetables don't have all, they have some protein but not all the essentials, and so when you combine everything, then it becomes this merry old, but with these it's just a one and done.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when you were talking about the herb gardens, I'm not a very good keep plants alive girl. Are those hard to do indoors? Like, can you overwater them or underwater them, or?
No, you would keep them in your, if they're right there in front of you on your windowsill, that's the whole thing, is like, and then go check it. Like you can just feel it if they're dry. No. Rosemary is so forgiving. Basil's a little bit, can be finicky, but I have a basil downstairs that I keep plucking off.
Yeah.
Or down in my kitchen. You don't know where I am. Anyway, but so yeah, but a rosemary, you can plant a rosemary bush outside and it'd be a bush, like a beautiful, it's aesthetically appealing, but the aroma that, like, when you walk by it and you rub it, it's just amazing. So
very cool.
That's a good one. That's very hard. Yeah, they all need sunlight.
Gotcha.
Just try it. Like you can legitimately, I remember like Target used to have like these little bit, so cute. Like I like little cute things. It would be like these little cute jars, and you can try like, growing these types of things.
Grow yourself kit. Yeah.
Yeah. But you go, like, I'm sure if you like do Pinterest and you just put that in, it will show you one different thing. So
yeah.
Fun. It's easy. Make it fun. And let me know if because it will start growing. You'll be like, oh my God, I did it.
Seeing it all pop up.
All right.
That's great. So if you guys have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. I can pass anything along to Lisa. If you want to email staff@myturningpoint.org, call the office. This will be posted on YouTube later. So if you want to go back and rewatch some of the slides, please feel free. But thank you so much, Lisa, for this presentation. It was great, and we hope you feel a little bit better, but thank you for sticking with us today.
Thank you so much.
And we hope everyone else has a great rest of your day.
All right. Okay, you guys. Wait, is there two more questions? Oh, wait, you're welcome. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for putting up with me.
Bye, you guys.
Right, bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.